Well, good morning, or not so good morning if you're looking at the Bitcoin price in dollar terms. I wanted to lay out why I am actually becoming even more bullish. Now, this does not mean that Bitcoin cannot drop more. Of course, it can. As Scott Melker pointed out this morning, Bitcoin does have a history of moving towards its 200 moving average, which is at this point within sight, somewhere just a little bit below 60, I think. I think it's at 57 or wherever. And when I started taping this, Bitcoin was below 69,000, although right now it's rallied back to over 70. Look, when people invest in Bitcoin, they are investing on the thesis that it will become a monetary standard. Full stop. Bitcoin has better monetary characteristics than gold. It is more transactable. It is easier to verify. In fact, it is verifiable constantly. You don't need men with guns to protect a stock of Bitcoin. There are many reasons why it is better. We could talk about that at length if we wanted, but it doesn't really matter because that is the thesis that most people use to buy Bitcoin. Gold, however, has more than doubled over the past year. And while the US government is doing what they can to try to keep gold and silver prices down, and that's a topic for another day, it's still significantly up. So, why am I more bullish now than ever? Well, the answer is look at two or three things that I care about. First, if you look at the mining network, if you look at the hash rate, it's back up weirdly over 1 billion terahashes. And effectively, what that tells you is the Bitcoin network is 6 times where it was at the time it dropped last, below 20,000, 6 times. So, right now, we are at a significant discount. Now, discounts in value terms can go down more, right? No one likes to catch a falling knife, as it were. But the base of holders of Bitcoin has broadened significantly over the last year. And yes, ETFs have had seen some inflows or seen some outflows, excuse me, over this carnage as Bitcoin has effectively been almost cut in half. But during that time, over 84%, I think, of holders have stood firm because they bought it for a long-term reason. And when you talk to various people who are in that complex, most people who have bought are buying it on a longer time frame. But what specifically is coming up that could be a catalyst? Well, there are two or three that are important. Number one, and this is interesting. I think that the market gods have a sense of humor is we're bottoming right before tax season. Now, tax season is interesting because in years following a major up year, you have people who have to sell because they are paying capital gains. Well, guess what? No one has capital gains from last year. So, quick analysis of the returns on years after down years show that Bitcoin is on average up. Well, let's see, the three down year returns after were 85, 36, and 47% up. But something very interesting this year is the tax refund situation is going to be the largest on record. In fact, it is looking to be well over $400 billion in tax refunds versus an average during the past N number of years of somewhere a little over 300 billion. So a 25% increase in money going into people's pockets. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but it doesn't take a whole lot. And retail has been largely absent from Bitcoin in this rally, except into 401ks, et cetera, which do tend to get funded during tax refund season. So looking at all of that, I would say the spring looks pretty good. Right now, however, it's fear. And what really is crazy is now we're down to a extreme fear and greed indicator of 12. So everybody is selling. The bear posting is out of control. And this is exactly the time that Warren Buffett would say, buy when others are fearful. Now, if you believe that Bitcoin is going to zero because of quantum, fine, sell. Personally, that's insane because the two most likely outcomes of a major quantum attack are one, they don't freeze the old coins, in which case you have somewhere around at the maximum 30% of Bitcoin supply go into the hands of people who spent billions of dollars to acquire that Bitcoin. And therefore, yes, they'll sell, but they're not going to crash the price. Or two, the developers decide to freeze the old coins, in which case the supply of Bitcoin decreases and the overhang threat goes down, which is an insanely bullish outcome. That is what you have to look forward to. In any case, that's enough for this morning. Trying to give some words of encouragement to people, but do make sure you avoid leverage. The difference for me personally between the last time Bitcoin had an episode like this and now is the last time, like many of you all, I had leverage in some of my accounts and I watched one of my accounts get wiped out. This time, zero leverage, and I don't care. I sleep at night, not a problem. I strongly recommend that. In any case, stay safe out there. I'll see you later on Crypto Town Hall.